Telling you guys all about how I'm gonna be getting these microchips surgically implanted into my hand. You guys had a lot of questions, so I'm gonna answer those. First question that lots of you guys had is, aren't I just screwed in an MRI or airport security? The short answer to that is no. These things are pretty much all glass and there's such a small amount of metal in there. They have been tested in MRIs and have yet to set off any airport security. So all good there. Next up is, how long will these things last? Does the battery die out? We'll have to replace them. So they use NFC and RFID technology, which are totally batteryless wireless communication technology. The materials in them are rated to last a lifetime. So barring any complications, I should be able to use this thing forever. Next up is, who installs these things? So a lot of people actually do it at home by themselves. You just take this needle, jab it in their hand, insert the chip, and you're done. I'm gonna be going to a professional. Usually the people that do this are body modifications or piercers. I found a local piercer that will be doing it for me. This next question is a really good one. What happens if your needs change for the chip, or you need a different code, you want to reprogram it? How does that work? Do you need to get it reinstalled every time? So the answer to that is no. The chip on these things can be totally reprogrammed with a hacking device here. This is called the Proxmark 3. It has a wireless antenna, and you could actually program the chip through your skin to do whatever you want. There's gonna be a lot of videos coming up on this and learning how to hack RFID and NFC, because this thing's kind of that beating heart that makes all this stuff work. So another really good and kind of related question is, can each chip be used for more than one thing? Or every time you need a new action setup, do you need to install a new chip in your hand? Kind of yes and kind of no. Let me explain. Okay, so each one of these chips has an NFC and an RFID tag on it. Each of these tags can only hold one code at a time. So you could have one function program for the NFC tag and one function program for the RFID tag, nothing else. But even though you only have one code programmed on it at a time, that doesn't mean you can't use that same code to access multiple things. So let's say I clone the code that's on my key fob for my apartment building, and that's the code that's programmed in my hand chip. Sure, I could use that in my apartment building, but what I can do is program other access systems that I'll be setting it up, like this thing that's going to be accessing my smart home, and program that code to also authenticate this. So even though I only have one code programmed on the chip, I could program the end authentication interface to also register on that code. Think of it kind of like using the same password in multiple places. Even though it's only one password, you could use it to log into multiple things. So this has got to be my favorite question. It's amusing, but there's actually quite a few good points in here and a lot to unpack. So there's a lot of people saying, what about the security of this thing? Can't people use hacking devices to scan my hand and steal all my data? What if people chop off my hands and use it to enter my building and stuff? That's all very fair and technically true and possible, but let me tell you why that's so flawed. So the important thing to understand about these chips is it's not like it's introducing something new. All this is a copy of things that you're usually carrying already. It's going to be a copy of the key fob that'll normally be sitting in your pocket. It'll be a copy of the credit card. That same thing will be normally sitting in your pocket. Both of these things are susceptible to those same vulnerabilities where people can just come up and scan them. That being said, doing that and those type of hacks are very, very difficult and not as simple as you think. To add difficulty to that, the area that you could scan this thing is so incredibly small compared to a regular fob. For you to scan this thing with a hacking device, you have to have it perfectly lined up with the antenna for it to even register. For somebody to do that, they'd have to get on your hand, position their device perfectly there to maybe even get a reading. If you compare that to one of the fobs you have on your keys, somebody could literally just walk by and take the data with a swipe. Again, it's very hard to do and it's not a common thing, but if you're worried about vulnerabilities on it, carrying around a key fob that you'd be cloning onto it anyway is 1,000 times more risky. And even if somebody were to be able to clone this, if you have this in you, you're gonna have the know-how to swap out the ID really quickly and totally remove the vulnerability by effectively changing your password. Again, something you couldn't do with a regular fob if you didn't have that otherwise knowledge. Anyway, I digress. Yes, there are security concerns with this. Nothing's gonna be perfect, but when you compare it to the alternatives, it's actually a great option when it comes to security. Okay, second last question, and the last two are kind of related. What happens if this thing goes out of date? What happens if the technology just goes away and we move on to something else? Totally fair, totally could happen. RFID and other near-field communication standards have been around for 40 years, and they're not going anywhere anytime soon. If anywhere, they're being onboarded and adopted for more and more things. And even at that, the chips that are inside these things are the most cutting-edge type of RFID and NFC tags to where. Anyway, I hope that answered some of your guys' questions. Please let me know if any of that wasn't clear or if you want to know anything additional. Keep an eye out for the next few videos when we start digging much deeper into how to actually hack this stuff, program them, and eventually get them installed. Thanks for watching, guys.